Salam, peace be upon you. Sometimes our claim will fail, and that is not a disaster. That is the system working. We do not hide the failure. We turn it into a refusal certificate with reasons and evidence. If we can still save something honest, we write a downgrade proposal. If a later discovery breaks an older certificate, we revoke it and everything that depended on it. This is how change stays clean and the whole framework stays alive. Coherent recap so far. We are still walking along one road. The road is called change. We started with a simple everyday picture. A cup on a table, then the cup is broken. Everyone says, it changed. But we decided we will not use time like a magic river. So we built a careful way to speak. What if it fails? Do we panic? Do we hide it? Do we pretend it passed? No. We install the immune system. Imagine we are building a very careful bridge over a river. A builder brings a beam. The beam looks strong, but when we test it, we hear a crack. What do? We do not paint over the crack and smile for the camera. We stop. We write a report. We keep people safe. Pause. Now we say clearly. Episode 14 gave us the alphabet of certified structure. Episode 15 gives us the grammar of lawful change. Episode 14 compiled what is publicly readable inside Windows. Episode 15 certifies how one compiled page can legally lead to another. And today we ask, when a change claim fails, how do we stay honest and still move forward? What if something fails? The integrity immune system. In this part, we install 4 public tools. A refusal certificate, a downgrade proposal, 3. A negative archive entry, 4. A revocation dossier. We say it simply. Refusal is strength. Revocation is self-correction. The negative archive is memory, not shame. Downgrade is humility with progress. This is how the system becomes alive. Not alive like a person, alive like a healthy city with laws, audits, and repair crews. The trap we refuse. The trap is the most common trap in science and in life. When we fail, we hide it. We edit the story. We delete the messy part. We only show the success. That feels good for pride, but it kills public reality. So we refuse that behavior. We install a rule. Failures are not thrown away. Failures are written down as official objects. That is the immune system. Everyday scene 1. The bakery receipt. Imagine we go to a bakery. We buy bread. The cashier gives a receipt. If the receipt prints wrong, the cashier does not say, "Just trust me." The cashier prints a new one or writes a correction note, because the receipt is what makes the transaction public. Holophase translation. Our update certificate is like that receipt, but sometimes it fails a gate. So we produce a refusal certificate. A refusal certificate is like a printed note that says, "This transaction cannot be accepted, and here is why." It must include the failure code, the evidence pointers, the gate report showing which gate failed, and, if possible, a downgrade proposal. That last part is important, because even when the full claim fails, something smaller might still be true. What is a refusal certificate in plain language? A refusal certificate is a public object that says, "We tried to certify change here. It did not compile, and this is the exact reason." It is not a mood. It is not a fight. It is not embarrassment. It is a clean result. It is the framework telling the truth. What it contains: the identity of the input state package S of W1, the identity of the output state package S of W2, or the attempted output, the typed adjacency proof, or a statement that adjacency is undefined, the transformer identity and version if a transformer was used, the gate report showing failure, the evidence list so a stranger can replay, a suggested downgrade proposal if possible. And then it ends with a sentence like, "We refuse this claim at this strength." That is the key. We refuse the strength, not the whole world. What is a downgrade proposal? A downgrade proposal is a careful rescue. It says, we cannot honestly claim the big thing, but we can still claim a smaller thing that is legal. This is like measuring a table with a simple ruler. You cannot claim the length down to a tiny hair width, but you can still claim it to the nearest centimeter. So you downgrade. You do not lie. You reduce the claim until it becomes true within uncertainty. Example in plain language. If a transformer needs ceiling Nmax of W equal to 5, but our window only allows ceiling Nmax of W equal to 3, then we cannot certify the full update. So the refusal certificate says ceiling violation, and the downgrade proposal says do not certify the full update. Only certify an invariant relation that does not require derivative order above 3. That is real progress without cheating. What is the negative archive? The negative archive is the place where refusals live forever. This is like a hospital record system. If a medicine caused harm, the hospital does not delete the record. The hospital saves it so nobody repeats the same mistake. The negative archive is that kind of memory. It is not a trash bin. It is a library of "do not trust this claim, and here is why." Why it matters? Because humans forget. Because teams change. Because the same mistakes return every decade wearing new clothes. The negative archive protects future work. It is dignity. What is revocation? Revocation is the strongest form of honesty. It happens when a certificate that once passed must be taken back. Not because we are ashamed, because we discovered a real problem. Revocation is like a product recall. A company sells a toy. Later, they find a dangerous flaw. They must recall it. They must warn people. They must track who bought it. That is revocation. Holophase translation. If an update certificate is later found to be broken because the audit is incomplete, or the invariance test fails, or a hidden primitive slipped in, then we revoke it. But we do not stop there. We also revoke anything that depends on it. That is called transitive propagation. It sounds big, but it is simple. If a bridge collapses, every road that uses that bridge is now unsafe. So we mark all those roads. That is how the system stays alive. The runtime toolchain line. Pi0 certified windows and passports lead to building StatePackage S of W. Then we prove typed adjacency. Then we choose a legal transformer. Then we run the 8 update gates. Then we produce an update certificate or a refusal certificate. Then we write to ledgers with uncertainty lineage. Then we run invariance stress tests. Then we issue predictions and failure signatures. And if broken, we revoke and archive. Everyday scene 2, the school exam paper. Imagine a student answers a question. The teacher marks it. The teacher does not just say wrong and throw it away. A good teacher writes, which step is wrong? Why it is wrong? What the student can still keep? What a correct weaker answer would be. That is exactly our Part 8 behavior. Holophase translation. The 8 gates are the teacher's marking rules. The refusal certificate is the teacher's written feedback. The downgrade proposal is the teacher saying, you cannot claim the full solution, but you can still claim this smaller part. The negative archive is the folder of past wrong solutions, so we learn. Revocation is when the teacher discovers the answer key had an error and must correct all grades that depended on it. Gate failures become clean categories. We use the failure taxonomy from the gates, but now we do something new. We turn failure into public paperwork. For example, passport mismatch or window change. Adjacency undefined. Output cannot be recertified. Invariance failure. Ceiling violation. Uncertainty. Dishonesty. Audit insufficiency. Smuggled primitive. Instead of arguing, we classify. Classification is peace. Stress test inside this part. We run the stress test again because it matters even more when we revoke. We say, phi goes to phi plus c. Translation. If we rename every street, did the city change? Answer, no. So if a certificate breaks under that relabeling, it was not describing the city, it was describing labels. That is an invariance failure. That certificate must be refused or revoked if it already passed. Intervention split moment. Very important. Now we do a common real-life confusion. Imagine we use a thermometer. One day the thermometer reads 20. Next day it reads 25. Did the room change? Or did we move the thermometer near the heater? This is the intervention split. Did the system change? Or did we change the window? The passport pi of W records the window setup. If the window changed, the correct result may be passport mismatch, not the world changed. This protects us from fake change. And if we find that a past certificate forgot to record this window change, we revoke it. That is honest. Everyday scene 3, the city map and the missing page. Imagine a city map book. We use page 10 to find the street. Later, we discover page 10 was misprinted. Now any travel plan that used page 10 might be wrong. So we issue a correction. We tell everyone, any plan that depended on that page must be checked again. That is revocation propagation. Holophase translation. Certificates depend on earlier certificates. We track that dependency like a chain. If one link breaks, the chain is not trusted until repaired. This is not drama. This is safety. This is public integrity. The emotional center of part 8. We say this slowly. The strongest thing a theory can say is, we do not know, and here is why. That sentence is power, because it prevents lying, because it makes progress real, because it allows other people to help. Refusal is not weakness. Refusal is public integrity. Revocation is not failure. Revocation is self-correction. Predictions, delivered like receipts. Prediction 1. If we run the same failed update certificate attempt across two independent teams with the same evidence, both must produce compatible refusal certificates with the same failure category. If not, our refusal engine is unclear and must be repaired. Prediction 2. If a downgrade proposal is offered, then the downgraded claim must compile into a valid update certificate or a valid invariant certificate within the stated uncertainty. If it cannot, the downgrade was not honest and must be refused too. Prediction 3. If a certificate is revoked, then every certificate that depends on it must be marked as not trusted until rechecked. If dependent certificates remain valid without recheck, our revocation propagation is broken. Prediction 4. If the negative archive is functioning, then future teams should be able to search it and find earlier refusal patterns that match new failure attempts. If the same failure repeats without notice, our archive indexing is weak and must be improved. Falsifier for Part 8. Here's a clear falsifier in simple language. If we repeatedly observe that hiding failures leads to better long-term accuracy than recording failures with refusal certificates, negative archive entries, and revocation propagation, then this part is wrong about scientific integrity. In other words, if a system that deletes its mistakes becomes more reliable than a system that preserves them, then our immune system design is falsified. What do we do if that happens? We do not defend pride. We revise the immune system rules. We rewrite the refusal process. We test again. What we produce in this part, spoken as a story. At the end of Part 8, our world of change has new living organs. When gates fail, we do not collapse into arguments. We print a refusal certificate. When we can still save a smaller truth, we attach a downgrade proposal. We store failures in the negative archive so the community learns. If a past success becomes unsafe, we revoke it and everything depending on it with a revocation dossier that explains the break. Now the framework can breathe. Now it can heal. Now it can grow without lying. Audit artifact and revocation clause. Audit artifact. What goes into the ledger? We store. The refusal certificate records failure code, evidence pointers, gate report, and replay instructions. Episode 14 gave us certified structure. Episode 15 gives us certified becoming. If becoming cannot be certified, it is not public reality. It is only a story. If you want to go deeper, the formal work can be found on Zenodo. Search for Holophase. Always, peace be upon you.